The Apple on the Boy's Head. William Tell is said, in 1296, to have shot an apple from the head of his son when an enraged governor challenged him to do so for refusing to salute his hat, symbol of alien authority. The story, however, is not related of Tell until 1499 AD, 2 centuries after the incident. But it does appear in the Old Norse Vilkina saga, and 300 years before William Tell, in the saga of St. Olaf. 100 years ago, the Swiss themselves decided that the story was legendary, though a man named Freudenberger had been buried alive by the canton of Uri in the early 18th century for claiming the legend to be of Danish origin. Tradition indeed ascribes the arrow incident to Palnatoke, bodyguard of Harold Bluetooth, in 950 AD. Some discomfort has been occasioned by the statement, in the Icelandic saga, that the original apple target idea was suggested by a Christian saint who wished to convert the heathen hero Idries. Apart from these considerations, the tale itself might well be seen to highlight the problems of category definitions in the field of tales. Is it, for instance, a myth relating to the Nordic gods, said to be of Hordur in the Edda? Is it a legend of William of Cloudesley of Britain, as it appears in the Ballad of Adam Bell? As a fairy tale, it belongs among the Marken to amuse, but as a didactic fable, it would inculcate principles. Some, on the other hand, see it as an allegory, that is, a fabulous but indicating some history. It does not help matters that this fascinating idea is very common to others than, as Sir George Dasent has claimed, the whole Aryan race. The Turks, Mongols, and Samoyeds all attribute it to their own heroes. I was last told it as a true local story by a Cypriot taxi driver in Paphos, the legendary birthplace of Venus. As the Swiss William Tell variety is easily found and known to many people, here for comparison is the version from the Vilkina saga, 3 centuries before Tell's time. A certain Palnatoke, for some time among King Harold's bodyguard, had made his bravery odious to very many of his fellow soldiers by the zeal with which he surpassed them in the discharge of his duty. This man once, when talking tipsily over his cups, had boasted that he was so skilled an archer that he could hit the smallest apple placed a long way off on a stick at the first shot, which talk, caught up at first by the ears of backbiters, soon came to the hearing of the king. Now mark how the wickedness of the king turned the confidence of the father to the peril of the son, by commanding that this dearest pledge of his life should be placed instead of the stick, with a threat that, unless the author of this promise could strike off the apple at the first flight of the arrow, he should pay the penalty of his empty boasting by the loss of his head. The king's command forced the soldier to perform more than he had promised, and what he had said, reported by the tongue of slanderers, bound him to accomplish what he had not said. Nor did his sterling courage, though caught in the snare of slander, suffer him to lay aside his firmness of heart. Nay, he accepted the trial the more readily because it was hard. So Palnatoke warned the boy urgently, when he took his stand, to await the coming of the hurtling arrow with calm ears and unbent head, lest by a slight turn of his body he should defeat the practised skill of the bowman. And, taking further counsel to prevent his fear, he turned away his face, lest he should be scared at the sight of the weapon. Then, taking 3 arrows from the quiver, he struck the mark given him with the first he fitted to the string. But if chance had brought the head of the boy before the shaft, no doubt the penalty of the son would have recoiled to the peril of the father, and the swerving of the shaft that struck the boy would have linked them both in common ruin. I am in doubt then whether to admire more the courage of the father or the temper of the son, of whom the one by skill in his art avoided being the slayer of his child, while the other by patience of mind and quietness of body saved himself alive, and spared the natural affection of his father. Nay, the youthful frame strengthened the aged heart, and showed as much courage in awaiting the arrow as the father skill in launching it. But Palnatoke, when asked by the king why he had taken more arrows from the quiver, when it had been settled that he should only try the fortune of the bow once, made answer, "That I might avenge on thee the swerving of the first by the points of the rest, lest perchance my innocence might have been punished, while your violence escaped scot-free."